Welcome back to the Fourth Way Podcast. In this episode, we are going to continue to explore the issue of the will. In the last episode, I gave you my first reason or analogy or thought experiment, whatever you want to call it, explaining why I think libertarian notions of the will, which is the idea that freedom is essentially to be able to choose otherwise, I gave reasons why, the first reason why that just doesn't seem to make sense. And not only does it not make sense, but it produces a plethora of problems logically, morally, and intuitively. Sure, discarding libertarian free will also creates some problems, which we're going to look at later in this season. And I understand very intuitively libertarian free will on its face seems to make a lot of sense, which is why we're starting here, taking a look at things that you probably haven't thought of before in regard to it. And in my opinion, these problems that libertarian free will creates are far deeper and far more numerous than the alternative that I'm going to propose to you later. And that's why I'm beginning our exploration by pointing out these problems. Most people haven't ever given the arguments against free will any thought, so we need to first demolish the weak foundation that so many have built their philosophies on before we can offer up something of a positive case. This week, I want to provide you with another relatively easy to digest episode. Last week's time travel analogy was easy to understand, I think, because through a story, we were kind of able to put flesh onto the philosophy. It was a thought experiment and something that you could kind of put yourself in the shoes of this situation, and it just kind of made sense. It still might have hurt your head a little bit, but I think it was probably at least digestible. Today we're going to continue with that by using another story. And this story isn't one of my own invention, but rather one which I'm pulling from pop culture. I'm going to be using the story of the Hollywood movie, The Adjustment Bureau. That's not really a super popular movie. Probably you haven't even seen it, but I definitely recommend you check it out. When I first saw previews for this movie, for The Adjustment Bureau, I absolutely could not wait to see it. Because I love movies with twists, and I love exploring ideas of the will. So when I saw the trailer for this movie, one of the lines that they use in the trailer to kind of hook you in was, "For those who believe that free will exists." And the whole premise of the movie is that there's this big question we all have about the will. Does it exist, or are we all fated to a particular future? Now, whether an ancient Greek or a modern naturalist, we are bombarded by those who try to tell us that there is no such thing as free will. And let me be perfectly honest, I would love to be proven wrong about libertarian free will. It's sort of like young earth creationism for me. I would totally love for young earth creationists to have this evidence that they could bring forward that made sense. Not just this one piece of evidence, but like I would love for their system to make sense, for like all of these things to be uncovered. Because I mean, I don't have any problem with the idea of old earth creationism, and I think even evolution, like in terms of, I know I can't think of BioLogos, right? The Christian organization. Like, I don't have a problem with however the world works and the way that God created it. But if young earth creationism were proven to be correct, then like that's a slam dunk for theism at least, and potentially Christianity. Because evolutionists, naturalists just could not have an explanation that really made a whole lot of sense. It would be really weak if young Earth creationism, or if a young Earth was proven to be true. So I'm rooting for them, even though I strongly disagree with the evidence that they put forward and with their position. Same thing with libertarian will. I'm rooting for it. Like, I would love for it to be true, because I think that would make a lot of theology very easy, right? A lot of things really easy to explain. But I just don't think it makes sense. And I don't think it's how the world works, and I think it creates a lot of problems. So yeah, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, yeah, man, explain this to me. Maybe this Hollywood movie is going to uncover something in a way that narratives can do, that philosophy can't. Jesus used a lot of parables, stories, narratives. They can really help you to see things in a way that you might not otherwise see it. So I went to the movie, or I rented the movie, and I was very hopeful, but at the same time, I was also very critical, and I was going to try to pick it apart. And unfortunately, it was not that difficult to pick apart. So in the movie, we see these two characters, this man and this woman, and they fall in love. But we come to find out that there's this organization called the Adjustment Bureau, which intends to control the universe, right? They've got some agenda they're trying to control for God or something to try to make things run the way that God wants it to run. And their goal is to ensure that this happens. And so they clean up messes and do what they have to do to make sure everything goes according to plan. That the fate determined for everyone and everything plays out. Unfortunately, for the Bureau, the man and the woman who fell in love were not supposed to have fallen in love. Like that wasn't the plan that God wanted to happen, right? So free will is trumping God's sovereignty here. So even if they prove libertarian free will, like there'd be a bunch of other theological issues that kind of come up here. Nevertheless, right, their focus is on the will. So this man and woman who are not supposed to fall in love, and the Bureau is trying to fix this mistake. That's essentially what the movie's about. The Bureau continuing to try to fix this mistake. And they, I forget what all they do, but they like erase their memories, and they do a bunch of things to try to keep them from falling in love with each other after they erase their memories. But the plan just doesn't work. Like they keep on falling in love with each other. And by the end of the movie, the attraction between the two lovers is so strong that they end up falling in love, ultimately, fighting the Bureau and eventually winning. They're like, okay, I guess we're just going to have to go with this plan, right? All right, well, let it happen. Free will wins. And the end of the movie played up very much this notion of free will and choice overcoming determinism, and the odds and fate and all that stuff. Now, this fits very well with our American dream mindset, which condemns those who remain prostitutes or who remain in the ghetto because they just failed to will themselves out of poverty or out of oppression, right? It's all about your will. Some people might have a little bit more of a hurdle than others, but everybody really is ultimately responsible to the extent that your will is just bigger than anything. We can do it ourselves, and we don't want to view ourselves as being constrained, especially not constrained to the extent where really we wouldn't have done otherwise. So the movie was entertaining overall, but the creators of the movie and most libertarian observers of the movie, they failed to notice one key element. An element which I think shatters the whole ending for any who are trying to cling to libertarian definitions of the will and who think that this movie is an example of how the will is elevated. Towards the middle of the movie, it's revealed that in an earlier blueprint of the universe, I guess God had like all these different plans that he was thinking about going with, and maybe he even tinkered in some ways. However, it was pitched. Right? There were earlier iterations of the universe that God was thinking about going with and maybe originally planning. So in one of these earlier iterations or ideas, these two lovers were in fact made for each other. They were supposed to be together. Like they were created to be for each other. These two individuals were originally created in the mind of God for the purpose of loving the other. However, the original plans changed, right? God's ends changed. He wanted something else to happen. So the plan for their love as an end, as a result, it was scrapped and never proceed into existence. right? That's why the Adjustment Bureau was there, to make sure that that didn't happen, like everything stayed on course. However, because of who the characters were created to be, the bond between the two is so strong and so fused into their natures that even when the overarching plans for their meeting and continuous love were altered or attempted to be altered, their natures were such that they were absolutely compelled to choose each other. No amount of experience or nurture or mind wipes or anything else could dig deep enough to alter their natures to love each other. So really, the love that we see at the end of the movie was a direct result of these two lovers' original natures and their character composition. Their love wasn't just an arbitrary choice or something they simply willed out of nothing. It was a choice based in how they were designed. The design in them was so strong that a new course designed for them couldn't compel them away from each other due to their original created natures. So rather than saying that these individuals were free to choose anything, as the movie attempts to say, in reality, it's like the total opposite. They couldn't help but choose to love each other because of who they were in their natures and their desires. They were made for each other and would not have been fulfilled any other way. Now, I have absolutely no problem with this. In fact, I don't think this movie would make any sense if they didn't put in an explanation like that. I mean, what would explain why a love was so strong that despite memories being erased and plans being altered, that this love persisted through all of that? Like, what else would make sense? I mean, imagine that you had been born in a country very different from the one that you were born into. Do you really think that you would have been drawn to the same person that you're now coupled with? Or might it perhaps be that most Americans marry Americans and Indians marry Indians because of where they live, because of their cultural values, their language barriers, and their accessibility to foreign dating pools? I mean, of course you wouldn't be drawn to the same person, let alone have an opportunity to run across the same person. Unless, of course, there was some unique circumstance where such a desire was built into your soul. It's not free will to say you would be drawn to the exact same person regardless of circumstances, because only circumstances have explanatory power. Only circumstances make anything make sense, apart from randomness. The circumstances of the movie were such that each lover's soul had been infused with whatever property it was that drew them to one another. And while that may not be the way that most or any love works in the real world, it at least makes explanatory sense in a movie. It's only when there is deeply rooted nature and or some sort of causality that such a movie and choice and stories in general make any sense at all. They have to have reasons. And this is exactly why I am repelled by libertarian notions of the will. They make no sense of the world that we live and act in. You can't tell a story with free will at the center and be consistent in what you say free will is, because the story won't make any sense. Not to mention, every time you'd rewind the movie, or I guess in the streaming era, every time you restart it, the movie would have to turn out differently if free will were to make any consistent sense. But we know that's not how the world works. You choose your lover, not randomly, but based on who you are. And you are who you are because of where you were born, the experiences you had, and the nature you were born with. What makes a story interesting and real is not arbitrary choice, but choice which stems logically from who a person is. And such choices are the only way blame and praise can be justly ascribed to an individual. Their choices must truly represent who they are. Now, I'm sure you're still not completely satisfied in this discussion. You probably have a number of, yeah, but what about, rolling around in your head. And I told you this was going to be a bit of a journey. We've only gone through 2 examples right now, and I think I've got like 6 more maybe before I start making more of a positive case for what I think. And I promise you, I will get there. I'll get to the positive case for what I think should the will looks more like. But for now, I hope that you will really wade into the two arguments that I've made so far and give notions of free will honest consideration. And don't stop there. Come back next week for more discussion, because I'm going to provide you with a number of angles attacking libertarian free will, many of which will have significant overlap with what we've already talked about, but also some other unique angles. But I think it's really important to reinforce the arguments and provide numerous angles, because it's really difficult to wrap our minds around. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for like 20 years, and it still hurts my head if I think about it too much, and I have to kind of keep circling back on it. So anyway, I hope you'll return next week.
That's all for now. So peace, and because I'm a pacifist, when I say it, I mean it. This podcast is a part of the Kingdom Outpost Network. Please check out the links below to find other great podcasts and content related to nonviolence and kingdom living.